Who's having a Happy New Year? Yeah, not so much, right? Yeah. Well, anyway, it'll get better. Bob asked me to give the talk today because I wrote this article. Is it up there?
Yep.
Yeah, go up to the go up to the lip. Yeah, go up to the top. To the top, to the top, to the top. So this is a blog. Blog. It's blogs are where people go blah blah blah. And UTS, which is now HK International, has one. So that's the Unification Theological Seminary blog. It's called Applied Unificationism Blog. So I wrote this article there, and Bob read it, and he said, would you like to come and talk about this on Sunday? So I said, okay, that's fine. So the title is, Anyone Can Have a Mystical Experience. So can anybody tell me what's a mystical experience? It's not that easy to define. Mr. Nelson, what do you think?
Something that's non-physical.
Something that's non-physical. Well, it's a little more specific than that. That is true. That is true. But air is also non-physical, but it's not mystical. Okay. An experience with the spiritual realm. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. Yeah, an experience with the spiritual realm also. It's non-physical, but it's not a mystical experience.
Is it something that can't be explained?
Something that can't be explained. That's what people said. William James, the famous philosopher, said that mystical experiences are, wait for it, ineffable. You ever heard that word? It means it can't be expressed in words. But that's not true, actually. No, mystical experience, if you look up the word mystical, it means an encounter with the divine, or an encounter with God, a direct experience with God. That's the real meaning of what a mystical experience is. Make sense? All right, so when I was a little boy, I never had a mystical experience. I went to church every Sunday. You know why? Because my parents forced me to go. Does that sound familiar? So, because I was forced to go to church, I went to church every Sunday from the time I was 4 years old till the time I was 16. But in all that time, I never experienced God. Okay? And a lot of people can relate to that, right? So at the age of 16, I decided, well, maybe there is no God. Because I haven't seen him, I haven't felt him, I haven't talked to him. So I became an agnostic. Can anybody define what? Ken, what's an agnostic? You know what an agnostic is, right?
Like they don't think you can prove God exists.
Yeah, that's correct. That is absolutely correct. So an agnostic is a person who's kind of like the jury is still out debating. It's like we don't know if there's a God and we don't know if there is not a God. So I'm kind of in the middle here. I don't know one way or the other. That's an agnostic. So that's where I was at the age of 16. But somewhere along the line, I had a direct experience with God. So now I believe in God, not because I was taught, because I went to church on Sunday, because I've had a direct experience with God, because I know God. So how many people have had a direct experience with God? I know there's some here. There's a few. Yeah, there's a few. All right. How many would like to have an experience with God? Raise your hand.
More.
Or even more. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, some people would like to do that. So over the course of my work, I've found that there are techniques that can trigger an experience with God. Does that sound pretty cool? That sounds pretty cool, right? There's something you can actually do to have a direct experience with God. Okay? And 3 of them I list up here. Okay, why don't we... Yeah, first of all, I want to read this thing. No, go back. I want to read this. I found this hanging on a plaque at the seminary in the chapel. You know the Berrytown campus has that big chapel one? And right at the bottom where you come in, there was this plaque on the door, hanging on the wall. This is what it said. The founder, Reverend Sun Myung Moon, his 1985 commencement address to UTS says, I have also endeavored for this campus to be a place where students can develop deep personal faith and, wait for it, authentic spiritual communication with the Spirit of God. Direct encounter. Direct encounter. So that was his hope, is that the students at UTS at least one time could have a direct encounter with God. It was on that plaque hanging on the wall. So I got really excited, because that's what I'm all about. That's what I'm all about. Okay, one of the goals, the seminary has a mission statement, and part of it is to enhance their relationship with God. So if you go to UTS, you're supposed to come out with a better relationship with God than you went in with. But that doesn't always happen. yeah, it doesn't always. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so after having a few experiences myself with God, I began teaching others how to do it. In addition to writing, I've conducted classes, workshops, and training seminars around the world, demonstrating techniques shown to facilitate a mystical experience. So there's three. The three main there's more than three, but the three I focus on in my workshops are hands-on healing, guided meditations, and something I call journaling with God. So hands-on healing, for this technique, I divide a group into pairs. One person sits in the chair, and the other stands behind them and puts their hands on there, and then I guide you through a thing, and people have a direct experience with God doing that. Okay, the other one is guided meditation, and the other one is journaling with God. And I think I already shared that with this group on a previous Sunday, journaling with God. So my question, I want to share a couple of the experiences that people have. So go ahead and scroll down. Okay, just go up. Okay, right here. First of all, in order to have an experience with God, you have to actually believe that it's possible. Okay, because a lot of people don't believe it's possible. And guess what? If you don't believe it's possible, you're probably not going to have one, because your mind is closed to the possibility that it can happen. So I was teaching one of my workshops in Italy, in Milan, Italy, a few years ago, and I remember vividly one female participant at my Italian workshop who came to the moment during the guided meditation where she was just on the cusp of uniting her light and the light of God. Just as she and God were about to embrace, she shut down the experience and was acutely aware that she was the one who had done so. She avoided the mystical encounter and was quite upset about it, but didn't understand why she made that choice. Through a translator, she asked me if I could tell her why she had chosen to end the encounter just before the mystical union. I got her to calm down, and I asked her to close her eyes and place her hand on her heart. And I asked her to ask her heart why she shut down the experience. After placing her hand on her heart, she closed almost immediately. Her eyes popped open, and she said to me, "I know why I did it." She said, "It's because I did not believe I was good enough to have such an experience. I didn't believe I was worthy." Does that sound familiar? That's the number one block. And it breaks my heart. The people don't believe that they're worthy enough to get hugged by their heavenly parent. It's like, imagine an orphan child that's been separated from their parents for 10 years. And after 10 years, they find the child and they bring it home to the parents. And the parents want to give the hug to the child. And the child says, "Oh, I'm not worthy to be hugged by you." How do the parents feel? Their heart's broken. You see that? That's God's situation. We're all running around thinking, "Oh, we're so sinful, we're so bad, we're so unworthy." And because of that, we're blocking God out. God is all around us. We're like an autistic child with the parent standing there and the child can't relate to the parent. This is the number one block I run into, this feeling of unworthiness. It'd be interesting to find out if, so this is a real, she was Roman Catholic, she's Italian, right? So I find that a lot. in the in Christianity in general, this emphasis on being unworthy. Okay, all right, so now I want to share you a couple cases where it actually happened, because it gets me really excited. Okay, let's scroll down here. Successful cases. This is a Japanese sister. This sister also was living in Italy. She was blessed to an Italian brother, right? But she actually spoke Italian, so she gave this testimony in Italian. Remember, it's not her first language, so it's kind of, the language is not so good now, because then I translated it into English. So there's a Japanese person speaking in Italian, and I'm translating it into English. Okay, so she started to do the guided meditation. In the meditation, and then she said, I started to meditate by following him, indicates Ron. Truly it came right away, just like a light, slow at first, and then stronger and stronger, like a wave vibrating. Small vibrations at first, then wider, going into the sun. And as I was searching for my light, and she touched her forehead, I found a strong reference point with the white light. And as I was trying to bring it toward my heart, a word came. And the word was, thank you. She didn't say it. She heard it. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't understand why, but then it said, thank you. I was searching for you for so long. She heard the voice of God. And then she actually, when she got to this point, she couldn't talk anymore. So then she continues. Truly he, God, gave thanks and said, I have been searching for you very much. And my heart was saying, thank you. Truly this moment is very important. Finally, we met. It seemed like this sensation of not wanting to leave this strong moment, a moment of an encounter with someone with a strong, strong embrace who did not want to leave me. My hands were vibrating, and I was feeling this deep love, this strong warmth, like a mother who embraces, hugs from the beginning, and who will never leave you. So she felt that God was like her mother, and that this would never leave her. And this was a strong message. And then calm and tranquility came to me. And truly, I had been waiting for this encounter, and I gave thanks. Thank you. I did not want to leave that moment. But then Ron said he was going to cease. I was going to say, okay, the meditation's over. But she didn't want it to end. So, and leave little by little. But I did not want, I could not leave this moment. So I noticed after I ended the meditation, she was sitting in her chair, still meditating, and she's crying. Tears coming down. I could not leave this moment of an encounter so important. Something that my heart was searching for from the beginning. And then she had to pause again to compose herself. And she started crying again. So we now understand that God is always with us. He was living inside of me in silence, who did not understand that he gave us this sense of feeling the love of God. So this woman later told me that she had been in the Unification Church for over 40 years and had never had an experience like this. She was deeply moved to discover that God knew her personally. She told me, she said, Ron, he knew my name. So God called her by her name. Oh, this is so great. This is so great. So this is why I get really excited to teach these techniques. Okay, let's do this one. We have time for one more?
Sure.
Because they're so cool. Okay, this one here. This girl is only 15 years old, and she was from a Mormon background. She's raised in a Mormon family. Okay, and the reason I'm doing this is I'm trying to show that these techniques, anybody can use them. You don't have to be a unificationist. Although I found that unification members, it's easier for them to break through than for people who don't have our training. So that makes sense, right? But anybody can. Now this girl was 15 years old, okay? And again, she did the guided meditation technique. I'll tell you a little bit about her. She had been struggling with depression and was practicing self-injury by cutting herself. We were also concerned she might be suicidal. And I wrote more details about this in my second book, Reconcile by Life, Book 2, Spirit Messages from a Teen Suicide. So it might have been the workshop that you came to, actually. I don't know if you remember there being a teenage girl there. But it was at my house. This is one of the first workshops I gave at my house. All right, so during the guided meditation exercise at one of my workshops, I spiritually saw a rotating vortex of energy in front of her face. She was weeping as she was completely immersed in this energy. And when the meditation finished, her face was drenched in tears. So this is the only time, well, actually a couple of times this happened. I was leading I'm standing here and here's the group. And as I was leading the meditation, I spiritually saw this thing going like this in front of certain people, like a vortex of energy. It was white light, this energy. It was like a trumpet. It was a bit narrow here, and then it would open up. And I saw that in front of a few faces. And I knew those were the ones that were having a spiritual experience. But she was sitting in the back, like where Mrs. Asada was, and the vortex was around her whole body. And she's just bawling, and I go, wow, something really great is going on over there. Okay, so I actually saw it. So a little bit about her. I actually met her through her parents. Her parents came to my program, told me about her, and they read my first book, and then she read my first book, which has Joshua, my son, in it, who works with me from the spirit world, and he visited her. Okay? And he told me to tell the parents, don't worry, I've got her. That's what he said. Like, she's going to be okay. I've got her. So she had some spiritual experience with Joshua already before this workshop. So that's why this will make sense. So what I do is I have people imagine they're on the beach and the sun is right there. Okay, and you get quiet and breathe and get calm, and then eventually you're merged with the light of the sun, which is really God's light. Okay. But as she was sitting on the beach, she looked down the beach to my left, and I saw Joshua, that's my son, down there. So I jumped out of my chair, ran down the beach as fast as I could, and I tackle hugged him. Just like this. It was so great to feel his embrace. I just stayed there and I talked with him. I told him how grateful I was to him for being my friend and for all he had done to help me. So remember, Josh was like, he's 17. She's 15, so it's very easy, right? Teenagers. He just held me for a moment, and then he spoke to me. He told me, actually, you really shouldn't be thanking me. There's somebody else who is really the one who helped you the most, and I'd like to introduce you to him. Then she was standing here, and then he pointed to his left. He said, then he pointed to his left, and when I looked over there was this bright white light. It was coming from the person standing next to Josh. And as I looked to see who it was, I knew right away that it was God. So now she sees this entity of white light, and she knows it's God. Okay, where is it? Where did I go? Oh, yeah, okay. I felt kind of nervous. I mean, this was God. So I told him I was sorry. Sorry because I felt I had been kind of ignoring him and didn't have a very good relationship with him. So let me explain. She comes from a Mormon family, but she didn't go to their church on Sundays. Like, that's just the way she was raised, but she was like not so into church. Okay? And now look at this. Then God said, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you've had such a difficult childhood. It was never, I'm sorry for what you've had to go through. It was never my intention that it should be like that. Can you imagine that? Then he just hugged, then God hugs her. And I really started to cry then. I could actually feel him holding me. The feeling is impossible to describe. That's called ineffable. I felt so accepted and loved. So loved. I didn't want it to end. Then God said, I've placed certain people in your life to help you. Joshua is one of them, but there are others on earth also. They're there just for you because I love you so much. I'm here for you also whenever you call out for me. I also want to encourage you. You have so much love inside your heart. I hope you will share it with others and give it out, because if you do this, it will be very good for you. But notice God doesn't say you should do that. He goes, if you do, it'll be good for you. See, that's so beautiful. I have found during my ministry that participants, oh, I already said that. This girl was raised in a Mormon home and presented no obstacle to her mystical experience. And also her young age was no obstacle. So after this workshop, I saw her about 2 weeks later, and I was dying to know, like, has anything changed, right? And she said, yeah, lots. And then I'm like, well, come on, give me an example. And she thought for a minute, and then she said, well, in the past, if I saw some geeky boy wearing a ridiculous shirt to school, I might say something snarky or sarcastic to him. I never do that anymore. I'm a lot kinder and patient with people. That's real spiritual growth. Isn't that amazing? This comment epitomizes the goal of my ministry. I'm convinced that creating an ideal society, or what religion is called the kingdom of God on earth, begins with transforming individuals one at a time. Because of her experience with God, especially the unconditional love of God, this young lady now understands her immeasurable value as a daughter of God. When one receives this deep into the heart, it becomes very difficult to harm somebody else. Therefore, she stopped bullying other students at school. I love the motto, peace begins with me, because I don't believe we get a peaceful world without creating peaceful individuals. One at a time, okay? So, this event took place more than 10 years ago. The young lady has survived, and the transformative effect of her mystical experience ended her practice of self-injury. She stopped cutting herself, and no more suicidal thoughts. And she's still with us. She's married and has a couple kids. Yeah. Okay, now this is an example of a brother doing the journaling exercise, so I don't want to take up too much time, so we can stop there. So you can, we can stop there. Oh, scroll down, Ann, if you would. Right here. I've accumulated countless testimonies like these from the thousands of people who have attended my programs. In my experience, the door is wide open for anybody to have experiences like these. I'm excited because these experiences can be, and often are, life transformative. When a person has a direct encounter with God, they come to know that they are loved and valued beyond measure. They awaken to a stronger sense of empowerment. In my view, realizing this brings the kingdom of God another step closer to fulfillment. And then this talks about who I am. Okay, go down a little bit more. Then there's comments. Keep going. So there's Tyler. So he was the first person to comment on it. So there's a lot of comments on here. I want to share one more with you, okay? Because it's kind of cool. Go down to one. There's Lois Bouchard is the name. This one right here. These two women, they're not Unification Church members. They're just students of mine, okay? And I want to read I want to tell you about this lady right here. This lady, when the last election, there's Hillary Clinton and Trump. I voted for one and she voted for the other. And she was so upset with me that because she considered the other candidate like from the devil. I mean, just this horrible, evil person. So she cut me off. She ended her relationship with me. She wrote me some really, really, what you would say were hurtful emails, right? But I didn't respond. I didn't, say anything. I just kept loving her and internally. I kept doing something I call ho'oponopono, which is called I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I just did that over and over again. A couple years later, out of the blue, she contacted me and apologized. And said, I was really wrong of me to do that. You have the right to your own opinions, blah, blah, blah. You get the picture? And then she wrote this. Watch. I've been blessed to have met Ron years ago while he was having workshops out of his home. He taught me guided meditation and journaling, which I use every day of my life. His lessons in journaling led me to write my first book, Dear Lord, I'm Listening. It was a profound experience, and I realized the gifts of the Holy Spirit, which led to inspirational messages for all walks of life. I will never forget all that Ron has done to teach me to hone my gifts as a psychic medium. And I've used these gifts to help so many people grieving their loved ones. I do this to serve God and those left behind. And I owe the awakening of this beautiful spiritual experience to Ron Papalardo and his teachings. Thank you, Ron, for this amazing gift. So, Father taught us, love your enemies, right? Don't get angry. Don't keep loving. I'm like, what? Oh, there's Bob Honeycutt. I love that. So anyway, that's my story. I'm just so excited about that these techniques work. You know, some people think you gotta fast and pray for 40 years in a desert somewhere to have an experience. No. You know what? You know all you have to do? Open your heart. Because God is here. And God is inside us and around us all the time, 24/7. All we have to do is get into the vibration that God is in, and then He's immediately there. Okay? All right, I think that's all I have to say. Any questions?
Did the woman girl know John? She never met him.
Which one?
The 15-year-old?
She didn't meet him physically.
Okay.
She met him after he died. Spiritually. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a whole other story in itself. Yeah. So, you know, my son Joshua told me a few years, this probably happened around 2011, I think. And he died in 2003. Around 2008, Joshua said that, he goes, Dad, what I do now in the spirit world is I'm part of a task force. He goes, it's a group of spirits that work together, and our goal is to stop suicides from taking place in the first place. And whether you like it or not, you're part of the task force. he told me that, right? So that's why I started doing these workshops. And Connie and I, you guys don't know this, but I get a lot of unsolicited phone calls, okay, from, oh, my daughter just committed suicide. I get them from all over the world. And Connie and I spend countless hours counseling these people. And we don't charge for it. So Joshua brings them to us. That's kind of part of what we do. Okay? So I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? If you guys want to experience this maybe after the meal, come back here and I'll do a hands-on healing because most of you have never experienced it. It's so cool. So, you know, does that sound reasonable? Maybe after if we have time, maybe like around 12:30 or something.
You bet.
Yeah, it only takes a few minutes. So I'll offer that.
Is anybody interested in a hands-on healing after lunch? Raise your hands.
Yeah, one, two.
I guess Mark wants to.
What is a,
Yeah, Mark.
what is a hands-on healing?
What's that?
What is a hands-on healing?
It's very simple. Mark, come here. Just sit right here. So it takes two people to do it. Okay. So the healer and the healee. Okay. So what I do is I stand behind somebody and I ask, "What's your name?" He says, "My name's Mark." He says, "Mark, is it okay if I put my hands on your shoulders?" And he says, "Okay." All right. So then you put your hands on the person's shoulders, and then there's a chant or a mantra that you say, and it goes like this. It goes, "Divine love is flowing through me for the purpose of healing Mark now." Or you can say God. God's love is flowing through me. Ooh, there it goes. God's love is flowing through me for the purpose of healing Mark now. God's love is flowing through me for the purpose of healing God's love. Yeah, okay. Like that. And you do that for just like 5 minutes. And then you switch places. So stand up. So then he goes there and I go here. And he does the same thing. That's it. Very simple. But here's what's cool. Thank you, Warren. Here's what's so cool about it. What happens is when you ask the love of God to flow through you, it flows. It just does that. Unless you block it. But it just does. And so imagine that your arms are like a garden hose, right? And the love of God is the water. It starts flowing through, and you'll feel it. You feel your hands will start to warm up, okay? So you feel this energy going through you. Well, here, and it's, what is it? It's pure, 100% unadulterated God's love. It's the love of God flowing through you into another person. Now, when a garden hose is being used, doesn't it also get wet on the inside? The hose gets wet, doesn't it? So the thing is while you're giving the healing, you're feeling it. You're feeling the love of God. And so the healer has, sometimes the healer has a more powerful experience than the person in the chair. Okay? But then the person in the chair is also feeling this. And then I guide you, there's certain things I do in that meditation to tweak it, to make it even better. That's it. That's it. You don't have to do any prayers or rituals. We don't have to light any candles. Just do that. And it works. What's that? So that the other person can have that experience. So usually in a workshop, we do that. And then I invite people to come up and share what they experienced. And some will say, oh man, I felt so peaceful, so tranquil. Did you notice that the Japanese sister, she said, after she felt the love of God, she said, I felt so calm. Did you know that? And a peacefulness came. That's the first thing that happens. When you get into the vibration of God, oh, you just feel peaceful, calm. You don't worry about anything because you're in that vibration. Yeah? Does that help, Karen? Who asked? Oh, yeah. Does that help? That's all it is. It's really simple. Okay.
How to remain the strength?
You can't remain there.
Maybe after 3 months, 6 months. So how to keep it?
Well, this is a really, really good question, Mamoru, and people have been asking that question for thousands of years. How do you get into the vibration of God? How to maintain it, right? How to stay? You can't. Even Jesus couldn't. If you study Jesus' life, you will find that there are many times where he would tell his disciples, I have to go away. And he would go away to a cave and stay there for a couple days because he would get so drained, so run down, and recharge his batteries, and then he would come back. So it's really hard to do because we're in this physical world. The physical world is on a different vibration than God's vibration. So it's not impossible, but it's difficult. So I'm kind of joking and saying that you can't do it. You actually can, but you have to make effort to stay in that vibration. It's not easy. Does that make sense?
Is that why monks spend their whole lives in caves?
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's why
They don't want to leave.
Yeah, they would cut off from the world and go to a very quiet place so they could try to maintain it as much as they could. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope that's inspiring.